It seems like inspiration now has become my motivation.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another resounding episode of our interview series. It is called Land of Many. This week, we, of course, have got a special guest in, but of course, we have to tell you who we've got with us today. We've got the regular crew, the ITC Sports Ball crew. We've got that hot take spitter, the man who rips like Dylon spits. He is the modern day Masterful Ali on the microphone. He is that man.
Hey, you know, it's your boy Mace. I'm ready to go.
And of course, we have ITC's resident troll. He sees a fire and he's like, I got this gasoline and gunpowder and I'm throwing it on top. He is that man, Daryl.
These are
nothing today. See, y'all think? See, y'all was like, he thinks before he go and do something crazy today. Not today. Not today.
I was waiting on it. I was like, what crazy shit is he about to say to us today? And of course, our interview guest this week, he is a radio host, podcaster, and an excellent comedian. He is Kevin Kellam.
Wow, Jerome, this is like big. Like I have to like live up to those expectations.
Hey, you know what? We're setting.
Yeah, you snuck Muhammad Ali into an introduction of someone. So I was like, what am I gonna do?
It's the years of watching wrestling, man. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of
I appreciate it.
A lot of wrestling manager in me. Don't worry.
The thing is, you just started with the main event and worked your way down to the bottom of the card. You know, you went with you have Roman Reigns on your t-shirt. You have Roman Reigns on your t-shirt, but now somehow we got down to I don't know. So like a guy ham and egger from town who's just finished. You know?
Look, man, you're not the Brooklyn Brawler.
No, I'm not the Brooklyn. Hey, he had a long career of getting his ass kicked. Okay, he had a very, very long and healthy career. All right, you say his name, you know his name.
That's right. That is true. That is very, very true. But of course, we have to get the train rolling here because, you know, I don't want to eat up everybody's Sunday like that. I try and be nice, right? You know, because I am the prettiest face on ITC in case y'all.
He's lying.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? You guys can hate all you want, but it's still facts. Prettiest face, ITC, right here. Whole effing show, baby. Okay.
Now you're disrespecting RVD.
But we are here to showcase Kevin's talents and the amazing things that he's doing because one of our interview subjects, the great John Torres, the comedian who's actually, you know, he's probably got some dates coming up, which make sure you go check him out. Go make sure you go follow John's YouTube because he's great. But he put us on to Mr. Kevin here. And we have to start with Kevin. The very simple question that we always start with everyone, which takes us down the road that we go. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you want the people to know about you?
Well, I mean, if you listen to a show like this and you spend time with like digital content and it's a part of your everyday life, is like what you watch, what you listen to, that is what I do. I've been in my house for the last few years, or my apartment. I have a house. Who am I to say I have a house?
We all have.
Yeah,
We all have.
We're staying in houses and I have apartments, right? And I'm making content and putting it on the internet and working with websites and doing content about things I care about too, not just like making content to make it. I've been in radio since I was 17-ish, college radio. And then I worked in rock radio. I worked for a big rock radio station called Q101 in Chicago. I was with them, and then lost the gig in the pandemic. A lot of people got laid off, that type of thing. And now I'm with 2 rock radio stations, one in Rockford, Illinois called The X, and another in Springfield called QLZ. While I'm doing that, I work with a website called Sportskeeda Wrestling, which is based out of India. And so I literally, this past week, we changed our schedule. So I find myself like I'm doing radio in one room for like a half an hour and taping out the next hour of the show, like live to tape. And then I run down the hall and they're like, all right, here's your script. We need this about so-and-so from Monday Night Raw. And I'll be like, all right, green screen camera, cut it up. Here are the bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. Press, send, upload from phone, go down the hall, tape another. And it's like, oh, I woke up at 8 a.m. and it's 5. It's 5 p.m. I just did so there's that. And then there's days where I get to do all 3, where I get to do radio, podcast, and comedy. And I've had a couple of those recently, and it's like, oh boy, I'm complaining about how much it is, but then I'm also like, I'm not, having a job I hated when I was in college or something, so you have to put it into perspective a lot. So I do radio, I do podcast video content for Sportskeeda, and then I'm doing stand-up across the Midwest, and I'll be in Nashville for SummerSlam this week coming up. So, yeah.
Nice. Very nice. So I got to start here with what you said here. You said you started in radio at 17.
Yeah.
Now, Daryl and Mace, I know you guys don't know, but Q101 was like the rock station here for a very, very long time. Like it was.
It still is.
For the most part, yeah. Like it legitimately.
I'm
was
just not there anymore. God bless them. Kisses to them. You know what I mean?
It's like if you got on Q101, you were probably going to get somewhere with your career, right? Where it was it can vary.
Yeah. So and to put it in perspective, in LA, they have a station called K-Rock. There was I can't remember there was one similar in New York City. In terms of alternative rock music, this is the station. There's been books written about Q101, like that specific station. So to put it that way, and it was this is a station that broke a bunch of different bands. Like there's no widespread expansion of what Green Day does without a station like this. There's no the Killers aren't a big deal, and then 21 Pilots is a huge station for it too. And so I was with them for a very, very long time, and I wanted to be there for a very long time. I'm just bringing up that radio station, but I worked at one in Iowa and wasn't happy, and worked at something in Wisconsin. I could get there isn't enough time to get into it, but getting to the show, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was the show. And also the radio stations I'm on now are awesome, but it's just different. You know what I mean? It's very, very different. And I love it. And I get to still be as ridiculous or do things I couldn't do on the air before. Now they're like, yeah, go ahead, do it. I was like, and you're gonna let me put this on the radio? I'm gonna send this to you first. When I have to send them something first, and they're like, yeah. So they're like, I can do a minute-long bit on the radio in the middle of the day, which is very rare in FM radio. And now they're like, yeah, no, we trust you. You weren't Q101. We trust you. So if you're here, we want you here. So I was like, all right, okay. I'm going to rant about, what did I do? I do, the Florida man stories. You're like, Florida man.
Yes.
So
have you ever typed your birthday in on Google?
Yes.
Be like, your birthday, Florida man, and it's something. Yeah,
I have it. Hold on, let me do this real quick.
You got to do it, man. I think I got something like Florida man throws alligator through a drive-through window or something like that.
Cover that story. He did it at a Wendy's. All right, he did it at a Wendy's. I know which chain he hit up. All right, he wanted a Frosty, and so did the alligator. That was the stupid joke I did, right? And I have to be really tight about it because it's you don't want to go longer than a minute. You're pushing it, Think about it this way. I'll put it in modern terms. Radio was TikTok and Instagram reels. It's if you consume them that way, it's the same idea. So if I'm doing a minute, I'm doing almost 2 TikToks. I'm talking and when people want to tick on to the next thing, right? So I try to make it like tease to it. So like if you're listening for like 15 or 20 minutes, that's what you have to do now. You have to like tell people like, oh, there's more. I have to give you this and tell you there's more. And everyone like perceives it that way, but it's always been that way. Like radio was doing all of these things, still is doing all of them. I also enjoy people telling me, oh, you're in the fastest dying medium. Don't you know, like, radio's dead? Radio's dead. I'm in my late 30s. I've been hearing that since I had a MySpace. That radio is dead.
Oh, goodness.
What's still around? You know what I mean? What is still around? One of the things I just brought up is still got millions of people clicked into it every single day, and it's localized. And some of you guys are in Houston, some of you guys are all over. You have a rock station, you have your station, you have the station you grow up with. Maybe you don't spend the same type of time with it, but you spend time with it, and it's passive and it's on, and you know when you go into a store, you're in a car. Or you just like, I'm in the garage, we're having a barbecue, whatever, we're having like, just put it on. You know, I don't care. You know, I know the person who's hosting and they're cool and like that type of thing, right? So those things don't go away. They're still very, very tangible. And radio is the biggest music discovery platform in the world. 12 times as many people find new music on that than they do on the internet.
Not surprised. So the story for me is man hit dad in face with pizza after learning he helped deliver him. That's my Florida man story for my birthday.
Break it down again here. You're telling me that a man was born into the world and was angry that his dad was a part of the delivery, so he hit him in the face with the pizza? Or am I dyslexic and flipping that backwards?
No. You got it.
I'm angry you brought me into the world.
Yeah, it says a Florida man who found out his father helped deliver him when he was born inexplicably smashed hot pizza in the older man's face upon learning the news.
Hot pizza, not cold.
Yes.
Fresh.
Yes.
Fresh.
Maybe he didn't he bought a slice specifically for this purpose. You know what I mean?
It almost feels like they were in the kitchen having a conversation.
Yes.
He pulled it out of the microwave, and his dad told him that. He was like, "What? Bam!"
I made it seem much more premeditated. You were no. This guy just fucking went off when he.
I mean, if you slapping somebody with pizza,
I'm the radio person. I'm the one who was swearing right away, right there.
I'm just saying, if you slapping somebody with pizza, that sounds like a crime of passion to me. Who wants to waste good pizza? I'm just saying, if you got pizza there, you probably want to eat it. Who wants to waste that? I know Mace agrees. You never waste pizza.
Yeah. Never, not once.
Not once. Don't do it.
Only it has bad sauce. Bad sauce gets wasted.
I mean,
and that's gonna be a mess too. Like if you really lay it in. I mean, you do the swipe in, you know. And someone with a beard, I'm like, that's really gonna get in.
Just imagine if it hits you like in the face, so then it gets like in your eyelashes and stuff.
Hits you in the eyeball,
you got cheese sauce going down your face, and like you said, if you got a beard, now you got sauce and cheese all in your beard. It's like, how you want to fight? You want to
go? Let me clean
imagine the eye injury.
You definitely got to clean off half your face first before you get into any sort of altercation, because now you're blindsided on one side. You're missing everything coming from this direction, man. You might as well just have your eyes swollen shut at this point, because
imagine having an eye injury from that, like a legitimate eye injury. Oh, what happened to Terry? Got the zesty eye. He got the yeah.
Go be at the doctor like, cut me, Mick, cut me.
How did we get up?
I love it. Hey man, this is what happens when you bring up Florida man. This is what happens. Okay, Florida man is if you ever want to laugh people, just look up Florida or Ohio man does something, and I'm telling you, it's always great.
Or Germany. You like another just weird place in the world is Germany. Like I've heard it's what I'm doing isn't like breaking the mold. You know, I'm just finding a way to frame it, and I just yell bad behavior from Florida, and it's the Jackass theme underneath what I'm talking. Right? That's what it is. And
Mine?
and sometimes it won't be from Florida, but it's Florida-like behavior. You know what I mean? So I'll emphasize that. So that allows me to say that Florida behavior has become a good and service that has been served to the greater international community. So that allows me to just be like, I'm not bound to just Florida. So someone in West Virginia does something that sounds like it's from Florida. Come on, sounds like it's from Florida. But it's
Daryl, you have a positive one? How? Florida man. 365 days a year is bad in Florida. Okay, what do you mean?
Lo, what were you saying? Get in there, Lo.
Florida man comes out of retirement, earns a Yale degree at 85.
Good for him. Now that's good behavior from Florida. Good for him.
He's the outlier in the group.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's
people
wild.
helping them in and out of a kegger. Oh, it's early. It's early at the kegger.
It's like an episode of Old School with my boy Blue.
Yeah. Old School. Yeah.
You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy. But so I have to ask. All right. So you say you started off radio at 17, right? So
17.
When did you make the decision? How did it come in your mind where it was like, this is what I want to do? Something in this field. How is it? When is that moment in time that you came to the conclusion and said, I'm not going to change fields. This is what I want to do. Because 17 is a very young age to figure that out. And if you figured it out then, that's cool. I'm just asking because I don't know if it was at that moment that you did or if it came down the line when you really realized that you loved what you were doing.
I don't want to say some of it makes me feel foolish in talking about it in retrospect.
It's all the journey, brother.
But it makes me feel very immature. It makes me feel very immature and kind of like, I don't want to say impulsive, but like idealistic. Let's see that. Let's use that word. I was very idealistic about what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do radio and like media work when I was a little kid. I wanted the attention, but I didn't want it for the wrong reasons. I wanted it because I was going to do something that made you laugh, was entertaining, and class clown type stuff. But if I was going to have your attention, I wanted it to be purposeful. I wanted to make you smile or something, right? And I grew up listening to talk radio in Chicago. It was like a really great time for talk radio. There's some really, really good people on it.
Who is your guy?
You know who Richard Roper is? You guys know who Richard Roper is? You ever heard of Richard Roper?
Do.
Okay.
I don't know.
So Richard Roper, there was Ebert and Siskel in the 80s, and they were like the big go-to movie guys. And when Siskel passed away, Roger Ebert had Roper come in, another big writer for the Sun-Times and a personality. Roper also did weekend radio, like a weekend talk radio show. And I called into the show. I was like an 8 or 9 year old kid. And I was just doing Phil Hartman's Saturday Night Live impression. Phil Hartman was on, this is like early 90s. So like Phil Hartman is doing Frank Sinatra on Saturday Night Live. Hey, baby. Hey, it's not like super accurate. It's just like taking a slice of someone and like doing it. So I'm a little kid doing an impression of something I saw on Saturday Night Live on a Sunday on the radio. And I would call in and they put me on the air. I remember it was my grandfather's birthday. So all my family were at this party and my sister was watching it. And I would get grounded so much because I was a bad student, but I wouldn't be able to watch television, but I could listen to the radio. I could put the radio on in my room. World, right? So I called into it and then that became something. And then I did another bit with them on my birthday, like a year or two later. And it was awesome. And it was like immediately then I was like, I'm doing this. Like I'm like 8 or 9 years old, and I didn't tell my parents I really wanted to do it until I was like, let's say freshman in high school. And I remember my mom was like, not many people actually get to do that. Like the spots are very limited. And she's not trying to be discouraging. I never forgot it. And I always let her know. And she's like, you don't have to tell everyone about that. You don't have to tell everyone. Now you work really hard and you get what you get, but you don't have to tell it. Come on, y'all. But yeah, that's kind of like when I knew I wanted to do it. And then, but then the college radio station was near me and I started doing college radio in high school. And then that wasn't even the college I went to, and I stayed on that the entire time I went to Columbia College. So I was doing 2 college radio shows, 2 or 3 days a week. And like I interned at Q101 and like long before I worked there. So like it would be I would leave my house on like a Wednesday and I wouldn't get home until Friday because I just couldn't figure out how to get home from all the things I was doing with classes and stuff like that. And then you bust your ass at a White Hen, like a convenience store, so you could buy WrestleMania tickets. And like all I ever wanted to do is just do the things I want to do, which is probably really immature.
No, it's reasonable.
It's reasonable.
I think that's where,
in the sense of like, I'm at a point in my life where I know I just don't want kids, or kids just aren't the thing for me, because I'm like, I'm just like reasonably selfish. Like I'm not like mean. I'm charitable. I do things like, but I'm also like, I'm probably not the right person to have kids because I put so much energy into when am I going to be interviewing Panic at the Disco? And like in retrospect, it's like all the anxiety that builds up to things, I just pour into it, and then I wake up and I'm like, have I wasted I'm nearing a midlife crisis. So I have to like be able to say to myself, like, did I waste my life doing these things? And I'm like, no. Like I have to constantly recorrect. It's like, no, like this is like what
it's very
like
very
10-year-old you would be like, you're doing that, like I constantly tell myself like 10-year-old me like dreamed of these things, and I have to constantly tell myself like, be grateful. You got to do some really really cool stuff with really really cool people, and also like I have great friends and like people I consider like brothers and sisters in what I do. And it's not like, that's more rewarding. The relationships you make along the way, the friendships and that's a corny phrase, but it's also appropriate. All these like corny things you hear when you're little, you're like, yeah, whatever, dude, whatever. This is the greatest time of my life, whatever. And I'm like, man, I wish I knew when I was at Ozfest in 2003 that I'd be, interviewing somebody or like covering this, and or when I was a kid, like at WrestleMania, knowing like I was in the press box for WrestleMania this year, and the whole time I was like, holy, but I can't be a mark, like you're there to do a job and you have to remember that. But then you walk out of it and you're like, wow. And you're like texting your brother, like, look at this, so you have to be reasonable about it. So, yeah.
So I want to switch gears here for a second. Like you say radio was your thing. How did the comedy come into it? Was it just that you've always been slightly funny and just thought that maybe a lot of other people thought you might be funny as well? Or were you talked into it by some people who possibly heard you on the radio? Or
no, it all kind of comes from the same itch,
okay.
Like the same camp. Like imagine it feels weird because it's just like another way for people to listen to me talk. Like it's narcissistic. I'm not stupid. Like I understand that, but I like to consider it like I like to say like, imagine you play music and everyone knows you play one instrument, but they know you're into music. But he does this too. Like so, I'm okay with that. And I look at like a Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters. He can sing, he can play guitar, and he plays drums. So I like to think like I can do a bunch of different entertaining type things. I can host, I can do jokes, I can write on some things. I'm a utility player. I can do a bunch of different. So that's kind of where it came from. And then like doing radio was like doing either I have to be serious, but it was also like I was doing comedy, and it was all from the same itch, and like I was spoiled. Chicago, you can go to Second City where like everyone who wants to be on SNL goes and like learns improv and sketch. I did that in high school, like on Saturdays. Once I started doing that, I was like, I don't want to play sports anymore. I remember my junior year, I rolled my ankle 3 times playing soccer. And then I got to start taking the classes that winter. And I could have played my senior year, but I kind of knew like, if my ankle is going to be really, really bad, I'm not going to be able to make it into college. And I knew like, if I wasn't going to be a college player, I don't want to do this. Like if I know I'm not going to level up and I'm just here, I don't want to waste my senior year of high school doing this thing that I don't like, I'm not 100% committed to. And I remember my dad saying like, that's really mature of you. And my dad loved soccer. He was like a referee in it. And my older brothers were in it. And my siblings were in it. I had a brother who like almost went semi-pro and like coached me my freshman year of high school. So I felt really Catholic shame. I felt really, really bad about not wanting to play soccer. And what I wanted to do was do a college radio show that I was doing through the summer and do comedy stuff. And that's my senior year of high school. And that's like 21 years ago. And now those are things I kind of like, well, at least the radio part and the media stuff, that's how I pay my bills, and pay for hot dogs and stuff, so.
Hey, I won't lie to you, Kevin. That's the point we're trying to get to. That's part of why we're trying to do so much different content, trying to make somebody say, hey, give me some paychecks, baby. That's all I want. Because like we were legitimately the original
paychecks. I'll take some. I'm also at that point. Yeah.
Like the original version of everything that started here, right inside the cage. It was me and my buddy. We were doing a show about wrestling, MMA, and like just entertainment shows, right? That's basically what it was. Yeah. How it all started, he had to do it for his degree, right? But I listened to it one week and I was like, man, you know what? The show would sound really great if you just had someone to sound off of. And he was like, well, will you do it with me? It's like one of my best friends. So I'm like, of course I'll do it with you, right? From there, dude, we won, I believe, 5 best shows on the station there. And at the point when I was getting us to the point of monetization, somebody completely sabotaged us and lost us our on-air spot. And it's been built back up since. But but honestly, I do miss the live because I think you can understand this more than everybody else here. There is a special level of like tension that you get from having to walk the tightrope of being live. Yeah. There's something special to it, man. And I do miss that feeling, but I also love what we get now, which is I can let somebody really be themselves fully. Take the chains completely off and just be, and be yourself. So like I said, I hope we can get somebody to get some checks. Hey, Jeffrey Bezos, what's happening?
Our Lord and Savior, Jeffrey Bezos, we need you, my boy. We need.
I'm just saying, he already owns the Washington Post. Why don't you get us a podcasting branch? We got you, baby. We got you.
Buy up. Put some AdSense on it. You know what I mean? But it is odd because, like, when I started doing college radio, and college radio is still awesome. You can still turn on college radio. They can put this on the radio, like a 15-minute song or something like that. Like, that's wild, right? But it's also now you can do what's called narrowcasting. Like, that was the idea of it, was that you're going to be small. You're playing to be small so that a small audience will stay with you the whole time. What do you think a podcast is? Like, the whole idea of a show you download is you are a specific audience. We have made a pirate ship that is your specific interest. You literally sliced up 3 different things. Then there's other podcasts where it's just the entertainment stuff. It's just the MMA stuff. The stuff we do with sports key wrestling is just for the wrestling stuff. But then we can put them all together. And it's like, no, this is the way I want to cook up my plate, And that's how, like, for radio, like, you got so many stations, right? The internet is infinite stations. It is a multiverse of content, to put it into a pop culture term, and you can just constantly feed it. Now, the thing is, are you going to get a big slice of that universe or a very small speck? Guess what? Speck's still really, really sweet. If you have a speck,
I don't need
something there.
I don't need a big slice, baby. Just enough to pay the bills, baby. That's it. Hey, I'm cool with the wife still making more money than me. Yeah. Just enough to pay the bills, baby. Keep the checks coming in. That's it. I ain't asking for a lot.
You got to say that part quietly, okay? Quietly.
Hey, look, I might have to edit that part out because Jeffrey Bezos, when he asked me how much money we want, I'm gonna have to start the number high because I know he's gonna bring it down. But you know what I'm saying?
Let him bring it down. You got to start big.
But no, all right. So you found your passion there, right? Mm-hmm. So, like May said, when did the comedy start, though? When was it that you were like, I'm going to start trying to do some stand-up comedy? Because crazy enough, John actually interviewed, and John inspired me, and I've been trying to work on writing out like 5 minutes of comedy that I then can do to him, and then see how he feels about it, and then try and do it at an open mic.
You just gotta go do it. Hello?
Yeah, you're right. That's what he told me too.
I'm saying it right now. Just tell him he has to go do it. Just not doing it for one person. Just go do it. Just just go do it and be prepared for the proverbial, they call it a bomb, right? You be a bomb. Don't sign up to kill, sign up to bomb, and go to an open mic and just get ready for an invisible punch that's being thrown by you while you're saying something that you think that you put in your mind, like this is going to be good, and then you put it out in the world, and then it's not. And guess what? Part of what you sign up for, because that's also part of like putting something into the world is acceptance or rejection, or the worst is not rejection, is no one even knows they rejected you. No one, like, that's the worst. I made this thing and I want the world to have it, and shouldn't you all celebrate? And then they don't respond, and it gives you some grit, but it also kind of drives you crazy at the same time. But go do it.
Oh,
just go to the open mic and do it. Like that's
I'm gonna have to
send it new comics. I'm like, well, I'm thinking about doing it. If you're thinking about doing it, just try it. And also, like, if you don't like performing, there's other things in comedy that aren't performing. There's other things like producing shows and putting things together, and like, I'm gonna help you like organize stuff and like production things. And if I'm not performing anymore, like when I'm older, like when I'm an old man, I wouldn't mind being the guy that, hey, I'll put up the chairs, and here we go, and here are the posters, and here we go, and here's the lineup, and here's this, and I don't have to go up. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that when I'm older. I'm not there. I'm not there at all. But I mean, yeah, it's weird. I started doing stand-up because I was doing improv stuff in between radio and everything. And improv is hard because you have to do it with a bunch of other people. You guys kind of know this, like, you all have to be on the same page. So with stand-up, it was like, all right, you know what? Screw it. I'm almost 30. And I have improv partners, and we just can't consistently do it. And I was starting to do stand-up while I was doing improv. And I want to say like 4 years into doing that, I kind of said, like, I have to cut bait on the improv thing, not because I gave up on it. I just kind of like worked my way out of it. And it was like, all right, now all those things are stand-up dates. And it was like the same, it felt like a parallel move. It wasn't like one day I woke up and said, I'm never doing improv and sketch stuff anymore. Because if I needed to, I could do it. If I needed to and I wanted to do it. And there's things I kind of do like that anyway. Like, there's stuff I do for Sportskeeda now that's kind of like go up and improvise and like come up with this, and here's your punch. I'm like, oh, that's all things I learned at Second City. It's weird to think of something I learned at a place where people from SNL are that now applies to what happened this week with WWE. But it's true. Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing stand-up since about 2010, but I could honestly say I was just doing stand-up since about like 2014, 2013, where I wasn't doing all of it. I just said, like, oh, ADD mind, let's if we take some things away, look at this. This is a little bit bigger now. So yeah.
So how did you manage to link in the wrestling with all of this? Because that's really what, like, John, because he was telling me about you, and then he's like, oh, and he also does all of this with wrestling too. And I'm like, wait a fucking second. How did he manage? Because I'll be honest with you, kind of frank, you do a lot of what I want to do already, right? So to me, my mind, as soon as I hear about what you're doing, it's working. It's like, holy shit, I got to pick this guy's brain. I got to figure out what exactly is going on in his mind that he figured out a way to balance this. So how did you find a way to work the wrestling into making a living, being able to survive, being able to still enjoy life while you're working, but it's actually more like, am I really working?
No, it's work. I can say it's work, and there's days when it's like super difficult and challenging, and there's transition, but it's media. It's all these different, it's a cyclical business too. I think too, some people think of like wrestling as this constantly big thing, but like, all right, WrestleMania is big, but is that casual audience gonna like? Because it all filters down, Like, all right, do we have enough diehard fans this week who are listening and watching what we're doing? And that's true. Doesn't mean we don't have awful days, or we don't have great days. Like, there's sad days in wrestling that tend to be like super busy, productive days, and I don't like saying that. The Vince McMahon stuff that happened this week was very insane in terms of like a workload, because it's like, all right, we're gonna have to do like 12 different videos on this, and like how all right, so if we go live, we could do half that, because it'll so like, okay, let's go live, and we did it, and it was the right call, and our audience was engaged with it. So Yeah, I got into wrestling because I was like really, really passionate about it. And I was doing it on radio. I started doing it in college radio in like 05. And I wouldn't say we were getting burned out on the college radio stations, WXAV, St. Xavier University. But we were always talking about it. And like podcasting was kind of starting. When did you guys start listening to podcasts? When was like the first time you listened to a podcast?
So for me, it was roughly, hell, man, it was probably over 10 years ago at this point. And
what about you, Low and Mace? What about you guys?
I'd probably say it would be maybe about seven or so years ago. Right when at the begining of the Joe Rogan experience, I guess. Kind of.
I know a lot of people that jumped in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like around that time. Like first was like Joe Rogan, then
because he transitioned from YouTube over to podcasting, kind of. Because I mean, first he was more popular on YouTube for a time,
and then he put a audio feed and stuff. Mm-hmm. So with me, because it was radio, and this is age too, just having like a couple more.
Hey man, we all got to bring your phone.
I have no problem telling people that I bought music on a compact disc and a cassette. I bought a
What's the first album you ever bought? Because I think I'll shock you with mine. What's the first album you ever bought?
Well, also I can remember the first ones I got. Like the best of things, like when you're like 13 or 14, you have your own money and you start going to buy stuff. Because I was like in that ilk of like right at the tail end of buying music. You like where late 90s, you were still like the boy bands are the super popular ones in terms of like making money. But like metal, like Korn was big and like rock bands, and I was in that crew. I remember I bought this is hard to remember. I want to say it was an Ozzy Osbourne album because I think it was Ozzy Osbourne, like his greatest hits or anything like that. It was, and I had seen him on Ozfest with Black Sabbath, and it was 1999, a formative experience. Like Black Sabbath with Slayer and Rob Zombie, and women being women for other women in front of me, and I'm like an impressionable 14-year-old boy. And wild. This is just. I want to come back to this every year, and I did. So, yeah, but getting back to the podcast thing, so like that's like 05, and the podcast is like new. Like the RSS feeds and like how you deliver things was like phones weren't there, but like iPods were. And I liked music, but I loved the idea of like, what if we could download a radio show? And it sounds so dated and antiqued, like to the utmost to say that. What if you could put your own TV show on the internet? Wow. Like that sounds ridiculous to say. And like YouTube was like in its infancy at that point. There wasn't shows on YouTube. There was just like clips of people falling down. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, you know what I mean? Like it was just
those were the good days of the YouTube rabbit hole when you would just have a bunch of fun. Now you can fucking around, fall down a YouTube rabbit hole. You'd have found something real dark at the end of that hole.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. So like there in 05, but at the time, like you bring this up, like wrestling is like a fandom world. Like just like there's Marvel and comic books and everything like that. You see with video games now, there's like an entire like not subculture, but like matched parallel culture of content with it, and wrestling is no different. And that was 05. And then on top of it in Chicago, it wasn't just like the WWE stuff. There was the independent organizations that were just like trying to sell 400 or 500 tickets to their shows. And then there was Ring of Honor, which is now owned by All Elite Wrestling, and that was like the prime of them launching the careers of like CM Punk and Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe. This is like 05.
I tell people all the time.
They're running like go ahead.
I think it was like 04, I want to say. I seen CM Punk wrestle in a freaking horse barn out here. Okay? Like it's wild. Like wild. I've seen quite a few wrestlers that ended up becoming professionals wrestling in a barn or like a small gym or a UAW hall somewhere.
VFW hall. Yeah. I saw Bryan Danielson wrestle in front of 200 people at the Berwyn Eagles Club for AAW, the wrestling promotion. I do work for them now. I help produce shows and I interview wrestlers and stuff. But I saw him wrestle for them in like 08, 09, like right before he was going to WWE. He was still doing his independent dates that he had to like wrap up. So you're seeing this guy he's locked in. He is signed. It's going to happen, you know? But imagine, you know, someone's going to the NFL, but they're still playing college football. Like, and not just like D1. They're playing D3 ball, right? And AAW now is like way bigger. Like I got to start working with them a few years ago again. And now it's like we're doing shows for like 500-600 people. You can do it on now on internet pay-per-view. Stuff just wasn't there. But he was still doing these shows that we would tape for DVD, you know, not in HD. And it was like, it's all grown. The technology's grown with it. So here I am like with this guy I grew up like loving and seeing, who's a couple years older than me, in front of 200 people. Then I saw him in WWE at the Allstate Arena in front of 18,000 people. I saw him in Ring of Honor in front of 1,500 people at the Frontier Field Halls. And then I saw him in MetLife Stadium in front of 80,000 people. Same guy I've seen do like all the way up the ladder. So that's kind of inspiring. And then I kind of knew like, all right, there's this fandom with it. We can keep doing this. So the college radio guys, we got together and we did a show. And we said, we're going to do it on the internet first because they wouldn't let us have a show. They wouldn't even let us have a show on the college radio station about this. Because like, what is this? And I said, watch what we do. And we did it. We put it on the website and it got like 1,500 downloads. So for like a college radio station, it's like, what the hell is that?
That's wild.
So then they gave it a slot the
wild.
Weekend that WrestleMania was in town in 2006. That's like when the show became a show. And then the independent organizations that I mentioned all got on board and were giving us wrestlers. Seth Rollins like was at our college radio station and like we're interviewing these guys. Like Chris Jericho was just about to go back to WWE. He had a book out, so he did it. And like anytime they were doing a convention, they're like, yeah, I'll get another 45 people to come to our $25 a person a pop autograph signing. Yeah, I'll go and do a 10-minute conversation. It's Mick Foley. And we're like, oh my God. But you have to reel it in when you're on the phone with them, you know, that type of stuff. But yeah.
That's ITC Man of the Year, Mick Foley.
You're damn right.
That's what we call him around here. That's ITC Man of the Year. I think we're going to end up naming the award after him. I'm not even going to lie to you. Just because like Mick Foley is out here telling everybody, fuck you if you don't want people to be able to have a chance to live their life. And I appreciate that. Yeah. So there's a big, big part of me. But, okay, so what was the first major wrestling show that you covered professionally, where it was like, holy shit, man, I'm doing this for a job. I'm legitimately in this building for this job.
Hard. I've done a lot of them.
What was the first though? What was the cherry pop?
Well, it's hard to believe because sometimes I was there for the radio station. So Q101 would get they had an advertising agreement with WWE that's been going since the 90s. So it would be like you were just getting the tickets. I was like, you're just getting them? They're like, yeah, just go there and take some pictures and put them on Instagram and stuff like that and like film something and we'll cut it up on Monday and send it back to them. And if they want to use it or blah, 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 or we can use it. And it's a part of a sales package or something. And I was like, does this work? They're like, yeah, it's work. And I was like, I want to say like a bunch of different shows. I remember going to shows as a fan. So it doesn't feel too different than that. But I mean, like covering, especially when I started with Sports Key to the past few years, it's gotten a little bit more because their platform is huge. Hard to say. I've done a lot of the WrestleMania this year would be the one I was like the most. Oh wow! And I'd done many, many more before that. But that was the one that was the most like, oh, this is the big time. Like this is legit. And then they also like let us do our show from the press box at Cowboys Stadium. Like they gave us here's your ISDN line. You guys get an ISDN. Like we don't need an ISDN line. They use that for like cable TV. I was like, we just need a good Ethernet connection. They're like, oh, okay, all right, cool. And they literally, and the thing is, someone from Cowboy Stadium came back. They run the wire and cable and they put it in the back of I was like, and like this is for our like they're like we do it for everybody. It's fine. I was like, oh okay. And then we're doing the show and it was wild stuff, and got to interview some big name people. And years before, I interviewed Seth Rollins for Q101, so that was really, really cool, and that blew up. And so I have a good standing as someone who, I know everyone says people in wrestling are dirt sheet people. I wouldn't put myself in that category. I wouldn't say I'm a reporter in that regard. I know about some things before they come out publicly. I know about stuff, but I'm not in the reporter camp. I'm more in the host analyst camp. I'm not a Dave.
You're here. We ain't gonna talk about his ass.
No,
You're here to talk
I'm
about.
I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm just saying that isn't my role. Like that isn't the stuff I do. Like I'm in the game of a sense of presenting and like having a conversation the way we're having a conversation.
The only reason I say that is because I don't want Terrell to be watching this and then get angry because Terrell has beef with Dave Meltzer and how he goes on handling his business. So.
I was low so me. Bad that he's like, you brought up Dave Meltzer. I'm out. I'm out of here.
So it's not me that got the problem with you, Dave. It's T. Okay, that's just not respect for him. But okay, so all that being said, we always have to ask somebody when they come in about something close and passionate to their heart. So today's top 5 of the week is Kevin's top 5 wrestlers of all time. Yes, we're putting the pressure on you, baby. I know this is a hard one because if you're a fan like that, and which you clearly are, because you love it, you've been covering it. That means, hey, you got a lot of wrestlers that you got to go through your head. You're talking laundry list long.
And there's some that I know. There's some that I'm not like friends with them, but I like know them. And when these things come out, they're like,
I heard about you, bro. I wasn't in that.
I heard what you didn't say. Not what I heard you said. I heard what you didn't say.
Look, all of Kevin's friends in wrestling, please don't take offense. He loves you all equally, but I need 5 right now. He has to give me 5. I'm pinning him down. This isn't him.
Because I want to hear from Mason Lowe. Like, who has to be on your list for you guys? Like, who's a given? Like, they have to be on your list.
Undertaker has to be on my list.
Yeah.
Have to.
Like, if they're not there, like, why even do a list? Like, you have
to. I'm throwing the whole list out if Undertaker don't make the list.
Okay.
I'm just
I know who's on my list.
I have to say Stone Cold and Undertaker are main. If they're not on, if you're not on your top, then you're just playing games.
Like that. See, that's a problem. When you do a top 5, you limit. It's a real. Everyone does like the Mount Rushmore. That's 4. I was like, no,
that's 4.
It's too limiting. You know what I mean? It's too limiting.
I say like out your top 5, 4 of them have to be there, and 1 has to be your bias.
Yes, which I think is fine because it's individualized. Like, you have to give me one that may seem like out of the box or wasn't like a super big main event guy. But if you watch it long enough, there's always those guys you love that are never, and gals too, that are never like the tippy top person. And you're just like, why do they never push that guy? I love them. And you have that with sports too. Like, there's guys I love. Eddie Belfour is like my favorite hockey player of all time. And I don't think he ever won a Stanley Cup with Chicago.
No,
with the Blackhawks.
No, he didn't. We got to that.
So I saw him play when I was a little kid. Like I went to the United Center. And I saw him play in a playoff game when I was like 12 or 13. They lost the game, but the game went to like triple overtime. So if they did that and he was in the game, he literally played like 6 periods of hockey. He played 2 games in 1 game and put up like 90 saves. Gave up 3 goals on 90 saves. Like, the save percentage on that is through the roof. They lost, but I still was like, he was the best. And he almost got into a fight with someone, and I'm 12, and he's my guy. So like it's that, like, I think you get one of those, right? You get one that's like the guy who like broke through, and you get one of those.
So we're talking about our bias here. I think my bias I was thinking about this, just like it's probably got to be either Eddie Guerrero or Jeff Hardy. Like, you're never going to see either one of them in somebody's top 5. But
Mace,
like,
I
was always entertained watching them perform. Always.
But you're in an age group though where like you were like what, early teens probably, like when those guys were 13.
Yeah.
That's a sentiment thing though too. It's like, who's the guy who's breaking out right as I'm getting really passionate about something. It's the same thing with like rock music or bands, or like who's the rapper or comedian too. Like who, like Dane Cook is still, to people, to me in my late 30s, like Dane Cook is the funniest guy of all time. And then there's other people who are like 10 years younger and be like, ugh, Dane Cook? How could you like Dane Cook, right? I have friends of mine who like love Cat Williams, and I have other friends of mine like, oh, Cat Williams? What is it, 2008, 2010? I was like I was like, oh, did he suddenly just stop being funny because time moved? Like I get where some of those things feel dated. So that's another thing, is like time and impression and sentiment, I really think influence these lists. But there are those certified all-time greats where they're not tied to a specific time. My list, no order. Okay.
No, that's fine. I don't expect the order because I just need
order's
5
too
names.
hard. Order's too hard.
Hell yeah, that's way too hard.
Undertaker's the best. Undertaker's the man.
Mm-hmm.
Undertaker is right guy, right character, and also complete, never-ending dedication to the craft. Articulated delivery, and then at the time, make an outward comparison, constant reinvention. Like, it may be the same thing, but he's always found a new way to do it. And put it in this way, like, he was already an all-time great. 08, 07, they're scaling him down, and the injuries are stacking up, and they're starting to like feature him. But 2008, he had already been the guy since like 1990, and went with WWE through the Attitude Wars against WCW and all these different things. And then they start to say, like, we're going to make you a feature performer. We're not going to put you out there all the time. And they start to put him out there more, but he's not wrestling every week, and he shouldn't be. And it's not as important. And then obviously they worked him even down less to like what would be the end of his career in the ring. But he had his best matches after 40 years old. Think about that. He started wrestling in 1987. His best work was in 2008, 2009, and he's not even like really a complete full-time guy then. Like the stuff with Michaels, the best of all time in terms of, we're going to tell you it's going to be the best match you've ever seen, and it is the best match you've ever seen, and the storyline is the best, and the vignettes and everything, and everyone craps on WWE. It was like, well, what about that? Like you know, and you talk about it, and it's like, that is the all-time best. The stuff they did, like those 3 or 4 matches, and the stuff that kind of like rolled, the best. So Undertaker's there. I was at his Hall of Fame speech. I had a ticket for the Hall of Fame speech down there, and thankfully, I know some people at the arena who allowed me to bring my brother who's getting married in October. We went and saw the Undertaker versus the Undertaker match at SummerSlam 94 as little kids. Not a great match.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not, like, but
awesome.
But when you're 11, awesome. When you're 11 years old, it's like, and it was the real introduction and the music. I'll never forget it. And by today's standards, that introduction is tame. It is tame. It was just some puffs and smoke and like all this. But to me, as an 11-year-old kid, my first arena show, it was magic. I'll never, ever, ever forget that as long as I live. And because of that, I said, I want to do something that makes people feel that way. And I saw that. Like, that was right around the time I wanted to start doing radios. I saw that. I was like, look at how this makes people feel good. I want to make people feel good. And it was awesome. So I'll always connect the Undertaker to that. Watching the Hall of Fame speech with my brother, like 50 yards from where we are. And we're in the hard cam area where they're filming it. So there's like weirdly no one within 4 or 5 feet of each of us, but it's sold out. And we're just like, what is this? And he's going on for 90 minutes. It was the best ever. I went to WrestleMania. Undertaker's speech was better than WrestleMania. And I saw Stone Cold come back.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
So Undertaker.
I will tell you, Undertaker holds a big part of the reason why I love wrestling. We went to a In Your House when we were like kids. Like, you remember, I don't even think it was labeled In Your House yet. I think it was still technically just like a house show at the time, right?
Okay.
We got to see And I'll never forget the Undertaker come out and do his entrance. And like you said, when you are there in person, especially as a kid, that shit gave me chills. That shit had me like, oh, holy shit. Like, this is amazing. So I fully understand what you're saying. The Undertaker, I know some people with the ITC brand and our fans might come back at me and say, well, man, you was the one talking about Undertaker needs to stop wrestling. Well, yes, because I'm tired of seeing my man be old as hell out here and get tired in the ring and not be able to perform at the level he used to. I'm used to this dude
Jerome,
at top level.
Never say never. Never say never.
Yo, you stop that right now. You stop. I better
never say never.
Look, I better never see him in the ring anymore. It's too late. Dog, come on. Didn't Saudi Arabia teach y'all anything? Come on now.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Like, I love you.
That's all right. The Last Ride documentary, though, is like incredible. Because it's like incredible stuff. So also on there, you brought up Stone Cold Steve Austin. Another one of those when I was super impressionable. But I was also like, I'm a 90s kid. Like South Park, Jackass, Beavis and Butthead, the Attitude Era stuff that happened outside of wrestling. Nitro blowing up. I was like into WCW when it was like kicking WWE's ass, and then I went back to WWE when it started to be good. And anyone who tells you like, no, I was always with WWE when it was live.
Look, I'm gonna tell you a secret.
You were around the NWO. You were doing what was cool.
Willing to say
you were doing what was cool, dropping dabs on people at school and all that shit. And then you started doing suckets when DX became cool at school. Not cool. Not you guys. Some of you asshole got sent to detention when you were in grade school doing suckets at recess. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Daryl. You know Daryl probably coming in the room.
I tell you the truth. Honestly, I wasn't a WCW guy or a WWE. I was ECW.
ECW.
So I was watching RVD doing
New Jack trying to kill.
I was watching New Jack, RVD, and Jerry Lynn doing crazy freaking matches. I was watching that. That was me. I like the staple.
Stone
matches.
Cold is that guy who scratches. That's why he's the Attitude Era guy. You know. So when I see him, he's the Attitude Era guy in terms of like that swagger and all those different things. And like I was like, oh, what matches do I like by him? And I didn't realize I was like, I really just like the character. With Undertaker, I love the character and the matches and all of it. And so Stone Cold's on there. I saw him wrestle in a dark match against. No, he was on commentary. It was a Raw in like 97, 98 I went to. And I think it was maybe like the second show I ever went to. And it was awesome. It was like peak Stone Cold. I think he just won the title in the spring of 98. So it was like that June or July. And it was like the peak, like the thick of Attitude Era stuff. And he was there. I don't even know if he wrestled on the show. I think he was on commentary and he got in the ring. And yeah, he did. It was, they did Undertaker versus Kane, and the winner got to fight Austin at SummerSlam that year. So it was the Highway to Hell. And Austin was on commentary, and then he had the match with The Rock as the dark match. So it was like him and The Rock. So I got to see The Rock versus Stone Cold. If I'm wrong on that, I don't know, but I know he did something in the ring, and it was sort of like a mini match afterwards, you know, to send the people home happy type thing. So Stone Cold's best ever. His comeback at WrestleMania this year was, people don't talk about that enough. He's a 57-year-old man who took a bump on concrete.
Yep.
All right.
I was scared. I was scared the whole time. I was like, "Ooh, that hurt."
I was like, "Bro, the suplex on concrete, my boy." I was like, "My back started hurting." I was like,
and also like that match lived up to the expectations. It didn't do anything he couldn't do. He didn't run the ropes. You notice he didn't have to run the ropes or do anything. That's like I've heard the term physical dynamics that I've heard wrestlers use, like, oh, it's too dynamic. You have too much like on your knees or this like type of thing. We can hide and work around it. That's why it was kind of like a stomp and work around thing. And also like he changed his style after the neck surgery completely to like get around those things. But also like you're bumping on concrete, you're taking suplexes. So like, what are we actually working around, you know? But like that was incredible. Love it.
So were you, hold on, were you
I'm at 2 now. I have 3 more, right?
Yeah, you got 3 more. Were you at the Raw in Chicago before this year's WrestleMania? When Kevin Owens came? Goodness. Did you laugh as hard as I did? Because me and my daughter were there that night too. Did you laugh as hard as I did when Kevin Owens came out with the bald head?
I have no problem saying I was fooled. I have no.
Were you?
Because like when you're in an arena, Mason, like
I know.
You guys, have you been in an arena and like the
Yeah.
music hits and you've been watching on TV your whole life and it's a packed arena and it's fans? You guys we need to forget this. I cover wrestling myself. If I'm in a press box, I will restrain myself and do things differently. And my laptop is out and I'm following like our Google Analytics page and like messaging people. And when we're in the press box, there's clapping and like a little bit, like when Cody came out, everyone stood up, was like, yeah, you know, a little bit, but it's restrained. It's not like we're chanting at each other. I'm still a smartass. If I'm in the crowd and I'm in the seats, because I bought tickets for this year's WrestleMania too. That was weird. I bought tickets for my brother for his wedding coming up. So like I had this trip planned, but then I was also in the press box. It was weird. But when I would go down to the seats, I was a complete jackass. I had no problem just like taking off my press hat with a little press clip in it and just being like, screw this guy, get him, come on, AJ, mess
I was
up
at
Edge.
the
Like
SmackDown.
when people kick it out on two, just yelling two and like all that stuff. Like, I had no problem doing that. Because I think you have to enjoy it, because that's why we got to do it anyway.
Yeah, I was at the
Raw show. I wasn't in a press area. I was with fans. I got a ticket for the show myself, and I was just there. So I pop my filters off. I hear the Stone Cold music. Stone Cold's officially coming out because you didn't know he was going to have a match. You just knew they were going to compete with each other, right? And you just hear the music. And by the time he got in the ring, I was like, "Mom, that." like the glasses. I'm like, he's here. Let's all go in here. I'm not even in my seat because it opened the show. I'm like, he's here. And I'm like with my friend, and then my buddy just goes.
When the music first hit, I'll admit I was like, yeah, but then I was like, wait a minute.
It is that
this
music
don't add up.
It is that music where like you're just trying to process like him coming out the whole time.
Everybody loses their mind the moment the glass shatters. At that
Great
point,
music, dude.
At that point, you it's smoke and mirrors. You can completely miss who it is.
It's the best. Glass. It hits. It's perfect. It is one of those things about wrestling that is ethereal. Like it's you can almost feel it. It's a complete instantaneous reaction, and Disney does that for people. Like think of like a Disney song. Oh my God! Like, do you want to build a snow? And like everyone's like, oh, whimsy. Like it hits the notes perfectly, and it's absolutely fantastic in that regard. And whenever I do a stand-up show and they ask me like, is there a song you want to walk out to? I was like, always. I'm like, always, because I'm loud. I'm like, always. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I like it.
It sets a tone right away. Like this guy's going to attack the whole time. I'm like, yep. And I use all that stuff now when I do stand up. Like work in the round. Like if I have to perform in the round, I learned that in wrestling. You do it in a certain pattern, and you kind of always go back to one person if the crowd is small, because you can use them as like an amplifier, and you just ping off them, and it hits other people. And those are all things I learned watching wrestling, not doing comedy. I learned that and I apply it. So Austin. Undertaker, I got a little bit controversial in Chicago, but CM Punk. To me, I would put CM Punk up there. I was at Money in the Bank 2011.
So you got
like
to see the arena completely lose his fucking mind. Then that's what you got to see.
Also, it's one of the best John Cena matches too. So absolutely fantastic. Like he was our guy. He was in that match. He was going to walk out with the belt. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And we want him to win. And the way they sold it, like it's like if the Bears were in the Super Bowl in Chicago, 100%. And then at the same time, it was verified to anyone else watching anywhere else in the world. It wasn't just limited to Chicago, too. I don't want to just make it about that. But it was a reminder of how important this city is for wrestling in general. In the same way that like New York is, even if you wouldn't put it this way. New York is a very great baseball city. Right? You would want to see any other team play in Yankee Stadium. If the Cubs and the White Sox had a game at Yankee Stadium, Chicago fans would want to fly to New York City to see that game. Like, to put that into perspective. And so that's the way I feel about wrestling in Chicago. And that when I talk to wrestlers, that's the way they feel about it as well. So that's why it was super special. That was peak him. I also saw him in Ring of Honor come up and make that into a worldwide thing. The idea of this generation of wrestlers that came out that weren't just a specific type of guy. They were a style. You had to be a style. It wasn't a body guy. He broke that mold. He introduced that kind of like late end ruthless aggression stuff and really got WWE in a different region. I know they're not on good terms and all these different things, and he's doing great stuff with AEW. But because of that match, to me, that's the best match I've ever seen live. All the other guys I like a lot more. That's the best match I've ever seen live, where it was just perfect. Kids crying, dudes cheering, like everyone like losing their mind. The near falls, the Gaga that was introduced in the match with the interference was just right because Vince was a big part of the selling point of the match. He had to be involved in it. Like Lauren Knight is taking the punch, not Vince, was a fun, perfect story. Him getting out, blowing the kiss. I know people that are friends of Punk that were in the front row when he sits down and he's talking to somebody, and he like already that was like his family. But the people he's talking to were people he like wrestled with in those barns. Like there's somebody he wrestled with in a barn, sit in the front row in the big house in your town, in the arena, and you sold it out, and your name's on the marquee, and like the crowd they're not even like stopping. They're still standing before he even gets in the ring. That introduction, you watch the way he walks out there, magic. Absolute magic. Like peak stuff. So Punk, Austin, Taker.
Best match I've ever seen live happened this year. I got to be there for Seth and Cody. That was holy shit. Those guys tore the arena was going nuts for that match. Like, and the art that they put into it too to play on everything. Oh man, it was and
all the callbacks.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
It was excellent. Excellent.
Mace Low. I also feel like I'm talking too much, and I don't want to be.
No. This is for you.
Yeah.
But
we're here for you.
I'm a dude. I'm like you guys. I'm a dude with some internet opinions.
I do want to ask Mace, what was the event you were going to say that you were at?
So oh man, what was it? It was a SmackDown, right? This was the height of like Mark Henry, when they were trying to push him as the world's strongest man, right? So he was always lifting shit.
Was it Hall of Pain Mark Henry? Or was it like kind of like 06? Because he didn't do the Hall of Pain stuff until like early 2010s, right?
No, it was before then.
All right, I think he's talking in the era when they were having him come out and like, hey, you can lift up this way.
Yeah,
you can lift up that way.
I remember my man.
When he took a frying pan and pushed it into his chest and rolled it up.
That era.
Yeah. I remember when he went out there. They fucking drove out. Can I say fuck now? Or do we have to keep it PG? Where are we at?
Fuck here, Mace. You can say fuck here.
Okay, well we're trying to keep the fucks down a little bit.
It's not August yet, Mace. I told you.
Okay, that's right. I still got time.
It's not August
got time
yet.
to get them out. So yeah, they brought like was it? I think it was a SUV out.
Wait, time out. What cup was that, sir? What cup was that? Who was on that cup? I'm pretty sure that was a Yep, I see. Yep, look at this guy. Look at this guy.
It just tastes
playing
like,
to.
It just tastes.
Look at him playing to the audience. Look at him.
Yeah, they brought him out. They had him lift like an SUV. I mean, my man gets up. He gets unlike they open up the car doors. They get in there. He like squats and then like takes a couple steps with it with the back wheels dragging. I was like, this man is not human. I was like, who's that strong? At that point in time, I thought that there was no human alive stronger than him. And then at the end of that event, they had who did Stone Cold wrestle? I can't remember. But after, you know how he does like the little beers and everything. After they stop airing, he stays out there and he's just cracking them bad boys back for like an extra 30 years.
So like when he was done in the ring after WrestleMania 19, he was around for like another 2 or 3 years as like a GM character, like an add-on. He was an attraction. It was like his farewell loop went on for 2 years because I could do a couple of stunners. All right, can't get in the ring and bump like I want to, but yeah, I'll come out and have it. But apparently he loved that. Because it was just go out and drink, Steve. Like that's what he got paid to go drink in places, Like that's awesome.
Well, Stone Cold is one of those guys. If you've ever listened to his interviews over time, no matter where he is, the one very, very consistent thing that sticks out in my mind with all of his interviews is that, you know, he has an appreciation and an understanding that without all of those people out in the crowd, he wouldn't have ever got to that level. Without the people getting behind him, he never reaches it. And you can tell he appreciates it and never forgets that. That's why every time he comes out now for WWE, he's trying to deliver the best possible performance that he can.
Even if it's just a promo. Even if it's just like a "Hey, how are you?" promo, he wants it to be like the best thing it can possibly be.
Yep. And that guys like that, you know, he has a true love and appreciation for what he's been doing, and he realizes how lucky he was, right? That, hey, wait a minute. Because the one thing I always love him about, right? He always says, hey, I'm just a fucking hillbilly from Victoria, Texas. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a hillbilly from Victoria, Texas that's an international superstar now. Like, that's insane. That's just pure insanity. Yeah. But all right, so we got 3. Now you got to give us the last 2.
It's getting harder. It's getting harder.
I know. See, that's why I say the pressure's on. This is why I told all of your friends in the industry, don't be mad at him. We're putting the pressure on. He got to give us some people, okay? And if it's not you, understand he still loves you and appreciates everything about your career. But today, we picking top 5 around here.
I have one that'll like surprise people, and I have one that maybe makes more sense based on what we were already talking about. So I'll do the one that surprised you, and I'll end with the one I know makes sense. Victoria, Lisa Marie Varon. I'll put her on my list. I'm completely biased. She had a restaurant in Chicago, and I hosted events at it. I got to watch Monday Night Raw with her. And she would break down, here's why this is happening. Here's why this is this. Here's this. Here's what I want them to do that they're not doing. Here's what I would do if I was in there. And all these different. So I got to really see the mind of someone who did it and watch it with her. And I'm completely biased. And when she came out of the Royal Rumble, I teared up. And because she hadn't been around WWE in a long, long time. And she takes it very, very seriously in the way that she looked for that. She had 2.5 weeks to do that. So, and she had not wrestled at that point in, I want to say, more than a year, but she was, in shape, and she's always maintained herself and doing events, and, she's still very active, very, very active. So when she showed up at the Royal Rumble, also a Thunderdome Rumble where there wasn't fans, she still took it as seriously and loved it. I got to interview her many times before. Once before she knew she was going to have one more match on the independents, but obviously they want you to do the Rumble and you can do it. You're doing it.
Of course. But
yeah, I go with her. And the reason, obviously, it's very, very biased. Why would I pick her? And a lot of people say, if you're going to pick a woman to be in your list, why wouldn't you pick a Trish? Why don't you pick a Charlotte? Why don't you pick I picked her because it reminds, this is the bias part. I'm in all the radio jobs and comedy things I've done. I always understood, if I'm not the guy, I want to be a guy who's always making a guy. I want to be someone who pushes it and makes it better for everyone else around me. Because the things I'm passionate about, I want them to exist and prosper beyond what I'm doing. If I'm not going to make a lot of money, well, God damn it, I want someone else to, and that isn't me being submissive to it. That's me saying this is part of me being raised Catholic. I have to be constantly grateful for what something gives me. That isn't just money. It's fulfillment and stuff like that too.
Man, I get it.
Victoria,
my goals is to make
Victoria was a wrestler. If Victoria was a wrestler now, think about this. If Victoria is a wrestler now, take her out of the generation she's in, and she's a wrestler now. She is Becky Lynch. She is Sasha Banks. She is top 5, top 4 in that mix, always in the title. And you look at Natalya. Natalya doesn't get the roses and flowers she deserves. None of these women would be where they are.
Be careful
and
bringing up Natalya around Daryl.
Victoria, she did have the title twice, right? And won it at a WrestleMania. But for the most part, the time that she's in the mix, it's Trish and Lita in terms of top female spots. They aren't there without Victoria. They're not there without somebody to get them there. And Hogan isn't Hogan without Andre. The Rock isn't The Rock without him doing this stuff with Austin. Austin isn't that without Michaels giving it to him. And all of Victoria's career, for the most part, in WWE, and I was a little bit in TNA for sure, because she really she got a lot of great business there with Gail and Kong and people. She doesn't get that. And I think of wrestling as so much, everyone's like the main event, the main event, the main event, the main event. Told you I was going to give you one that people say like this about. But I go with her because she's somebody who deserves recognition and never got she's the William Regal of women's wrestling.
Oh,
put that into perspective.
I cannot disagree with that.
Like a complete transfer of an athletic person who wanted to do wrestling, who came into it in like a completely different way. She was not ready for trying out for WWE when she did, and they put her in the system, and she was created in that system. She was like one of those first, we get you in, we make you, and you make other people. Think about that. A majority of her WWE career was to make other stars, and she enjoyed it and loved it and got hurt doing it and suffered some real harsh injuries. And I adore Lisa. She was very, very good to me. So that's why she's in my top 5. I don't care. It's my top 5. You don't like it?
Look, I'm just
buzz off.
I'm just gonna say she is very deserving. She's someone that me and Terrell have actually, when we did ITC Combat, we were just doing that. We did it. We had a segment we called it Wrestler Spotlight. We generally tried to give people their roses that didn't necessarily give them. And she was one of the subjects of this, because when you take in the totality, especially of her career, when you look at it and you're like, wait a minute. Wait. She had this long career. And then on top of that, she had success and was actually a good performer, understood the business, understood how to play on people's emotions in matches. It's like, okay, yes, you absolutely deserve that spot. So I don't think I can disagree at all. Now, Daryl might disagree with you when you come over here and talk about Natalya should get a rose, because Daryl gonna tell you she's the biggest jobber ever. That's what he gonna tell you.
Who said it? Who says she's a jobber?
Daryl.
All right, Daryl, you want to make this argument for me, Daryl? I would love to hear an argument that a lot of people in an echo chamber like to say to each other. I'd love to hear this.
Get off. The jobber part. Let's get this straight. Now, all I see is Natalya just like a bump for everybody at this point. I just see it just as a bump. It's not like she's going to get any good push. It's not like she's going to get a Mandy Rose push like they do, like throw her to NXT or give her a title or something. It's just like she's more just there to get either someone over or just to have a good name so someone can beat. That's it at this point. Like the best I can see Natalya doing is just taking an L at this point. That's all I see. Like, I don't see anything like great that Natalya can do now that can convince me that she's going to be a deserving champion. Unless you're going to give her a throwaway tag team title that no one cares about.
I mean, you watched her carry Ronda in a match, but I mean,
okay. Everybody carries Ronda in a match.
Come on now.
That's a different argument. About the Natalya thing, I think I kind of just made this point.
Hey, don't go nowhere. Make sure you hit that subscribe down at the bottom. Make sure you hit the like. Make sure you share us. We only grow with you guys. That's it. That's all I'm here for. Came to harass you. Like I said, hit and subscribe, people. Hit and subscribe. I'm looking at you. You see me right in the eyes. I'm waiting for you to do it.